My dear Toastmasters, guests, and friends, welcome to Toastmasters, the world's biggest platform for leadership and communication. We are District 31, and I welcome you to our talk show, Open Heart with District 31. In this episode, I have a special friend who I've invited. Friend who's been my boss in CLCon 2022. She has done a fabulous job conducting CLCon, and we had great fun under her leadership. This Toastmaster is also a distinguished Toastmaster, the highest level in Toastmasters. This Toastmaster is a transport from Chicago to Boston. Let us know what is the difference between the Toastmasters in Chicago and Boston. Without any further ado, please welcome my good friend, Toastmaster Lilly, on to our talk show. Toastmaster Lilly, how are you doing?
Hi, Vera.
How's the day been so far, Toastmaster Lilly?
It's a pretty good day. We're in this heat wave in New England, and I have my air conditioning at 75. I've went outside early in the morning to water my plants. That was it.
Stay hydrated, Toastmaster Lilly. Toastmaster Lilly, the first question I ask all my guests and friends is, where did it start? How did it start? Why did it start? Your Toastmasters journey. Would you like to tell us something about it?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Vera. I know you're asking everybody, but when I thought about this, I was like, how do I put it together? I've been in Toastmasters for 10 years. This year is 10 years, and it's kind of spectacular to think about it because I never thought I would be in Toastmasters after my CC. In 2012, when I joined, that was the old education program, but I went to a session on giving feedback in my workplace, and it was spectacular. They gave useful tips that people could use in their very next presentation. They didn't nitpick about punctuation on the slides or the slides having pictures that were too small, which is what my workplace normally did for presentations if we were preparing for presentation. And I thought, this is so much more helpful. The slides are very important, of course, and they need to be technically accurate and correct, but if you've lost your audience, it doesn't matter. You're not meeting with them. The second thing that I learned in that session was that there was going to be an international convention for Toastmasters. I didn't know Toastmasters was international. I knew that there were a lot of clubs in the US. My dad and several of my uncles were in Toastmasters way back when. And so I always knew about Toastmasters, but I didn't know it was international. And I remember Diane gave her table topics and she said, what if in 2014, that's 2 years from now, we all go to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia for the conference? And I was like, Diane, I just met you, but yes, I will make a travel pack to go with you to Kuala Lumpur. And so 2 weeks later, I joined the club, and I guess they say the journey continues.
Pretty awesome. And did you end up going to Kuala Lumpur, Toastmaster Lilly?
I did. It was such an experience. Diane did not end up going. She died before she was able to go there. It was very upsetting. She retired and then died right away, which is really sad. But I did go down to Kuala Lumpur. I even met people there. So in 2013, the conference was in Cincinnati, which is only a 6-hour bus ride from Chicago. So a lot of people were like, let's go down to Cincinnati. It's only 6 hours away. I took a bus. It was like $30. And I went down to Cincinnati. And I remember meeting this woman before the gala. We both had the same color dress on. So it was like, hey, you have this dress on, I have this dress on. And we became friends. And then when I was going to Kuala Lumpur, I actually shared a taxi with her from the airport to the hotel because we arrived at the same time. It was just such an experience.
Pretty amazing, Toastmaster Lilly, the journeys that we encounter and the people that we meet, Toastmasters. Toastmaster Lilly, now I change the gears and ask a question. Is the impact of Toastmasters on your personal life, professional life, social life, spiritual life? Would you like to talk about that?
Okay, yeah. I wanted to talk about the spiritual life aspect of Toastmasters. So I am not a religious person. My parents are both from a very strong church background. And when I was a kid, I went to church regularly. But I think about Toastmasters as like, this is my church. It's where I go to get encouragement, fulfillment, and hope for the future. And right, so Toastmasters is a lot like religion and church, right? We meet regularly, encourage each other. We have sacred texts and rituals. It's not the same, but I get a lot of that same sort of uplift from Toastmasters. So I think of it as Toastmasters is my church. I also wanted to talk a little bit about professional development. So I mentioned already that in my workplace, the way that coworkers gave feedback was very nitpicky and not always helpful. A couple of years after I joined Toastmasters, I had to do a public meeting presentation. So I work for the government and I had to go to the public and announce to them some news that the government was doing, a permit action that I knew the public was not really going to be happy with. So I asked my club to help me prepare for this. And in some of the Toastmasters projects, you can have like interrupters come for a speech, you can have a hostile audience and these things. So I prepped my club and I said, I'm going to this meeting. Nobody likes me. Nobody wants me there. And they also don't understand what I'm saying because I'm speaking in, government language, technical terms. So I wanted them to help me to get a lot of that extra stuff out of my speech and also prepare myself not to cry if anybody gave me personal attacks. It turned out that people did give me personal attacks, but I was completely ready for it. I even had my mom at the meeting and she accused me of trying to kill her grandchildren by poisoning the water. And I said, I am so sorry, but actually, what we're here to do is to prevent that from happening. If I hadn't had that question posed to me before, I don't know how I would have answered. I don't know what I would have done without the practice. So I've been able to do actual work projects with my club in a way that enhances my career. My coworkers were all super impressed, and someone from another government entity was like, wow, I wouldn't have done that, right? Like they wouldn't have been as prepared with as much poise and confidence. And that's what I've gotten from Toastmasters. So my professional life.
Pretty incredible, Toastmaster Lily. The experiential learning that you're portraying, that's amazing. Toastmaster Lily, now we make a third gear and ask, why should our guests watching the show join Toastmasters? In your opinion, what are the 2 things or 3 things? Why should someone join Toastmasters?
Why should someone join Toastmasters? Well, if you are like me and you've been hearing about Toastmasters from people your whole life, you might not think it's a big deal, but it is definitely a place where you can try the theory. You can try new things. Vera, you were mentioning that I was a CLCon chair this year. That was the first time that I was working on such a large project. I previously led people on contests, previously led people on trainings where there's fewer people involved in the mix. There's fewer things happening at once. And sure, you can do that in another organization, but why not do it in Toastmasters? We have these events every year. We have a lot of support and guidance. And most Toastmasters clubs, you can join them for less than $100, which I can't say that about any other learning opportunity, experiential learning opportunity, or a degree or certificate. Most of them are going to cost you a bit more than that. So I would recommend to folks to come try out Toastmasters. Also, most clubs will let you visit for free for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, as was my case. I didn't join the first time I went to Toastmasters, not until I went to that special session that they had, and then I was sold.
Pretty amazing. Thank you for sharing these experiences, Toastmaster Lily. You talked about being the chair for CLCon. How did it happen, and what said that you have to do this in the last year?
What said that I had to do this? Actually, when I first joined Toastmasters way back in 2012, I went to a district conference, and this was in Chicago. I had never been. I didn't know who from my club was going. I knew a couple of people were going, and it was something like $50 for the day. I thought,
Correct.
I guess I'll go to it. It's not that far away. It's not that expensive. And this was in 2012 again. I was just so impressed. I was able to see all of the different things that the district does outside of the clubs, right? We have the contests. I knew the contests were going to be there. I think it was a humorous speech contest, and I was very excited to see the funny things happening there. They had a dinner and people were dressed up. I got to meet people from other companies and get a perspective outside of myself. As I mentioned, I work in government. We don't change things very quickly. And we also have a very small group of people that we work with on a daily basis. I do anyway. Other folks' jobs will be different. But I was able to meet dozens of people in that one day and have so much fun. I don't think there was dancing that year, but other years there has been dancing at the conferences, the conventions, and it was just fun. It was so fun. They presented the CLCon, well, it wasn't CLCon, but they presented the conference chair with token of appreciation, and everyone gave her a standing ovation. And I thought, I could probably do this. It doesn't look like it was that hard. So it was in the back of my mind that it was something I wanted to be able to do. So I've been helping with the conferences ever since then, whether that's with registration or helping with the parade of banners. I've done that a couple of times, just always kind of helping. And this last year they said, hey, Lilly, you could do this. This could be you. And I said, oh, me. Yes, I will absolutely do it.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that, Toastmaster Lilly, and we enjoyed working with you under your leadership. Toastmaster Lilly, now we go into the fun section. It is called the rapid fire round. I'll ask you some quick questions and I'm expecting some quick answers from you. Are you ready for it?
Ready.
Sounds good. Toastmaster Lilly, your favorite historical speech that is very close to your heart?
So I knew you were going to ask me this one, and that's why I looked it up in my email. Some years back, I gave a recitation. I read a speech by Barbara Jordan from 1976. And she's very famous for her participation in the impeachment of then President Nixon, if I'm not mistaken. So, and she's from Texas. Said my dad met her one time, and she's a Black congresswoman from Texas, really famous. And she just really calls on people to do their duty, serving their community and being ethical about their approach. And I thought that's going to be the speech that I give. And Barbara Jordan is a hero of mine for her work with that.
Pretty awesome. Thank you for that. Toastmaster Lilly, a historic leader or a leader that inspires you a lot?
A leader that inspires me a lot. Okay, so recently, I'm inspired by a lot of people in government partly because I work in government, and I can see a lot of the great things that we do for the society and for different communities. Right now, I'm very inspired by Congresswoman Cori Bush from St. Louis, Missouri. She has been arrested a couple of times by really making sure that her constituents' needs are met. There was an eviction moratorium that she got extended by camping out on the Capitol steps. And that's so important when so many people, low-wage earners, didn't have jobs to go back to and couldn't immediately start paying rent and paying back rent. She said, my constituents can't do that. And she put herself there to say, this is the experience. People are going to be homeless. I'm going to be here on the Capitol steps until you guys fix this. And that to me is just so inspiring that she's really, walking the talk.
Amazing. Toastmaster Lilly. Toastmaster Lilly, a book that you like to recommend to our audience? Any book that is close to you?
I have a favorite book. I don't know that it is particularly related to Toastmasters or communication or leadership, but my favorite book is The Little Prince, originally Le Petit Prince, written in French right after World War II. It is just the cutest little book. They've done a lot of adaptations of videos, cartoons. You can buy it in several different languages. I have. And it's just really a great story about an alien who's like a kid who comes to Earth and then doesn't understand why this human man is the way he is. And he shares his lessons and everything that's important to him. and just really great. Really great book. I would recommend it. It's a tiny book. It's maybe for like fourth grade reading level, and you can find it in any language you want.
Thank you for sharing that, Toastmaster Lily. Toastmaster Lily, a food that you like to is your favorite dish to eat.
So since coming to New England, my new favorite food is Chicago deep dish style pizza. In Chicago, I could get it every other month. I wouldn't even eat it that often because it was so available and it was always there. But here in New England, I basically don't get it. Sometimes I can get it from the grocery store. Pizzeria Uno distributes around here, and you can get their pizza. But that's not my favorite deep dish pizza. My favorite deep dish pizza in Chicago is Connie's. So if you go to Chicago, my recommendation is to go to Connie's.
Toastmaster Lily, as a person who likes deep dish pizza, would you like to eat thin crust pizza? Or what's your take on thin crust pizza then?
It's a different experience. So I actually enjoy most forms of pizza. A thin cracker crust, that's not my jam. I like to have like a little bit of softness to the crust. It's okay. If it's a thin crust, a medium crust, a pan style crust, like you can get sometimes at Pizza Hut or Domino's, those are lovely. Plus they're really cheap. Like, who can't? Like, I guess a lot of people don't want that for their cheap meals, but I do. And in Chicago, we also have a thin crust, which is kind of a specific style in Chicago. The thin crust pizza in Chicago is loaded with toppings. It's kind of like a loaded baked potato, but a pizza crust and just a very thin pizza crust. So a deep dish pizza, it's kind of like a casserole or a quiche. Some people compare it to. They're usually 2 inches thick or so. This is probably more than 2 inches. And it's got like a huge layer, like a layer of cheese, and then a layer of toppings, and then a layer of sauce, or different compilations thereof. Yeah. But the thin crust pizza, it's just like all kind of smushed down on there. And the famous one from Chicago is Home Run Inn Pizza. And one of their claims to fame is that their pizza weighs just as much as a deep dish pizza.
That is amazing. We need to try those when I'm in Chicago. Toastmaster Lily, anything else that I've not yet asked that you'd like to share with this 31?
Anything else for District 31? I guess I would say if you have an opportunity to try something you haven't done before, just go ahead and try it. Here in Toastmasters, we have a lot of support. All of the folks in the district are willing to help you. If things aren't going perfectly, someone will usually step up. You know, my experience with CLCon this year, I got COVID. I was devastated when that happened. But I knew that the team that we assembled, you know, Vera, you were there, we both joined virtually. We had a hybrid conference. That was amazing. We didn't even think of doing those kinds of things last year, 2 years ago. And it all really worked out well, even though I was over here on my phone getting text messages, handling issues. I was able to do that while not being there, while having COVID and being heavily medicated. So if you are thinking about trying something, just go ahead and try it. There's so much support here in the district to help you accomplish your goals.
Thank you for sharing that, Toastmaster Lily. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you choose to come and talk to us. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, Toastmaster Lily.
Thank you, Vera.
Dear Toastmasters, that was a wonderful conversation with my good friend Toastmaster Lily. If you have any of your Toastmasters that you'd like to see on our talk show, put them in the comment section. Please do like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please do count how many ahs and ums I spoke in my particular interview tonight. I am Veera Sriram, your public relations manager, signing off. Stay healthy, drink a lot of water, and we'll talk to you on our next episode. Until then, bye-bye.